says, your immersive experience has been hijacked.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the immersive experience where we deep dive into the lives and minds of extraordinary individuals. Today we have the immense pleasure of hosting Patricia Ray, famously known as PR Infidel. Patricia is not just another author, she is a force of nature, a voice of reason, and a beacon of inspiration. A veteran of the global war on terror, Patricia has seen the world from perspectives few can imagine. Her experiences have shaped her into a storyteller with a unique blend of grit, wit, and wisdom. Her latest book, Conspiracy Crew, The End Is Meow, is a testament to her ability to weave humor with hard-hitting commentary, captivating readers and challenging their views. Beyond her literary achievements, Patricia is a passionate advocate for veterans' rights and mental health awareness. She has dedicated her life to not only sharing her stories, but also to uplifting others through her advocacy work. Her journey from the battlefields to the bookshelves is nothing short of extraordinary. Patricia's insights are as profound as they are entertaining, and her ability to tackle complex issues with a touch of humor makes her a truly unique voice in today's literary world. We're thrilled to have her with us today to share her journey, her inspirations, and her thoughts on the world around us. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the incomparable Patricia Ray, PR Infidel.
Oh my goodness, what an introduction, Desi. I don't deserve half of that. That's so kind. So thank you so very much.
No problem. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us tonight. Thank you so much, and you deserve all of that. I had to do
Oh,
some deep diving. There is a
oh,
quote that
really?
is in the yes I did. There is a quote that is in your biography that you sent me that states that this is I believe it is uh fun first, or for God first, for fun second.
So, yep, the Lord first, fun second, and profits third. Because you do have to make a little money to keep doing this, but it really is all about Him. So that's why I started this, because I mean He gave me this talent, and for years I kind of just. I mean, I had a bunch of stuff going on. I had my kids. I had the war. I had all this. But I kind of put it on the back burner, and now, and then COVID happened, and things just got really nuts. And the only outlet I had for it was to write. And these stories just came out of me, and they came out of me, and they came out of me. And I don't know if you've ever seen those infomercials, where they're trying to sell you something and they're like, but wait, there's more. And so I'd get done with one story, and then another one would come up, and then another one, and then another one. It was like God was that infomercial salesman, wait, there's more. And they just kept
Absolutely.
coming into like the book. So
Absolutely.
that's kind of what happened with Tales. And then a lot of people fell in love with Chester the Conspiracy Cat in Tales of American
Mhm.
Idiocy. And so I had to make a second book, which is Conspiracy Crew, The End is Meow, which is a continuation of Chester's adventures. Um, so that's me. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And I have a few other ideas in the back burner, including a third book for Chester, but we'll see how things go. So
That is
I
awesome.
lost
Thank you
you.
so much.
I can hear
There
you now.
is You lost me. You can hear me now?
For just a second. For just a
You
second.
can
Now
hear
I
me?
can hear you. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Sometimes I never know. Technology, it gives me the heebie-jeebies, but then I'm like, it helps me so much. But there is a
Love-hate
poem that you
relationship.
have. Okay, there's a poem that you have that I heard on the Lost Boys podcast for the first time, and it is uh chitter sitting on the Twitter, Twitter,
So
sitting on the Twitter.
yeah, it's called The Sitter.
Oh,
And
the sitter.
basically it is, yeah, it's an Orwellian poem. And I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but Orwellian, it basically comes from Animal Farm. okay, and also 1984. But this form of Orwellian is basically where I'm using animals to make a point about American society, in this case, birds. And it also is making fun of Twitter just a little bit. So that's just kind of that's kind of, where we're at. And I don't want to give too much of it away. What I'd like to do is read it and then see what any of your viewers may have gotten out of it, because literature is very subjective, and I think everyone can get a little bit something different out of this poem that they can take home for themselves, despite what I might mean with it. So if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and I'll get to it.
I do not mind. I will remove myself and give you the stage.
Thank you, ma'am. Along a country road, lined with country vines, bald eagles built a wire, and built it very fine. And they called the wire the sitter, for the sitter was the place where every freedom-minded eagle could squawk and show his face. On the sitter they thus talked, on the sitter they thus sang, about the serious, the fun, the trite, and the mundane. And because all speech was honored, even speech of such poor taste, bald eagles freely turned their speech to free productive haste, building things of dazzling beauty and expanding about their wire, improving all surrounding woods, swamp, and even mire. Thus they twittered on the sitter and sat there with their chat, squawking little bits of this and lots of bits of that. Yes, they chir-chir twittered on the sitter. They chir-chir twittered on the sitter. As news traveled of the sitter, it made it to blue jays, who rubbed their wings together as they looked upon the place. Why, this sitter is so free and so fine and so fun. It is the best wire for getting things done. We'll go up to the eagles and light upon the place and sit there pleading victim, putting pity on their face. And when they take us in, we'll take over all the wire, the swamp, the woods, and even distant mire. Thus the blue jays twittered on the sitter and sat there with their chat, squawking little bits of this and lots of bits of that. Yes, they chir-chir twittered on the sitter. They chir-chir twittered on the sitter. But the blue jays with their plans surely didn't come alone. No, they brought with them to the wire some strong and chatty crows. Now the crows, though strong and fun, had flaws, as our birds do, especially with forgiveness. Many couldn't see it through, except for one called Wise Old Crow. He was based as he could be, frowning deeply when he heard the jays say, bald eagles shouldn't be. But bald eagles didn't hear, and being generous and strong, didn't mind the crows, thinking all birds might get along. So they opened wings to blue jays and their companion chatty crows, and the wire became quite full. So it was, and so it goes, that all twittered on the sitter and sat there with their chat, squawking little bits of this and lots of bits of that. Yes, they chir-chir twittered on the sitter. They chir-chir twittered on the sitter. But the crows were not the end. No, the blue jays had more friends. They brought cranes, sparkling runs, and golden eagles too, all breeds of birds enjoying what the balds had made come true. Except for the balds, well, they were quite stressed, for now there were more to feed, defend, and they had very little rest. They had to hunt more food for their families and all new friends, and sorting guest from invader proved a task too big to rent. Some, of course, complained, but the blue jays wouldn't hear it. You're just breedless birds, they snarled. Now shut up and endure it. This went on for a while, with the bald beak quite low, until one of these verbal lashings reached the ears of Wise Old Crow. And he tore before the jays, dark feathers puffed out with his mood. Those balds built this wire, and they're producing most of our food. The least you could do for them is not be so darn rude. Billy Jay sneered. Shut it, old timer. What is it you know? Look in the mirror. Why, you're just a crow. And crows have only one purpose these days, to echo our echoes and say what we say. Again, I challenge, what is it you know? Those balds are oppressor birds. Just look at that. It shows. And most crows agreed, and about Wise Crow didn't care, saying bald eagles are oppressors with their beaks in the air. And the cranes, runes, and goldens sadly joined in, labeling balds oppressive birds and refusing to be friends. But they still twittered on the sitter, and sat there with their chat, squawking little bits of this and lots of bits of that. Yes, they char twittered on the sitter. They char twittered on the sitter. It continued for a while with the balds just enduring, trying just to survive and avoid unpleasant stirrings. But with the mood made by the jays, this proved impossible to do, with hatred and unforgiveness all directed at them too. So they abandoned most of the borders and stopped growing most of the food, and the sitter became unpleasant and even more rude, until all throughout the wire not a bald eagle could be found. And seeing the balds were gone, Venezuelan birds came round, and the Venezuelan birds attacked all of the rest, taking over all the wire and killing all the nests. And old Crow had much to say about this unfortunate event. Were the bald eagles still here, this evil never would have been rent. And this time, wise old Crow had the others on his side, even those who'd earlier tossed the balds much undeserved a ride. For they could see old Crow was right, where the blue jays had been wrong, and that all birds on the sitter should have tried to get along. Said old Crow, for if God has made all birds, that means all birds should be, even bald eagles. For me, that's plain to see. So the blue jays, thus accosted, were forced to confess and help all the others find bald eagle nests. And searching high and low, they eventually found them, buried in the countryside with the thick woods thus around them. And to the story of the Venezuelans, the lead bald listened patiently. He was silent for a moment, then said, "Sounds like Breedis talked to me." The others stood in shock, their beaks down to the floor. But the lead bald wasn't done. No, he said lots more. For years, we opened up our wire. We made most of the food. We fought off most of the threats. We defended who we could. We tended all the nests. Yes, nests that weren't ours. For we believe all birds should be, even those of you who hate us. For us, that's plain to see. But we can't anymore. We've worked nearly to our deaths. Many of us are ill. We've been so abused by all that gone now is our will. So for your Venezuelan problem, we offer this refrain. See to it yourselves. We're the ones that brought this pain. Well, when we warned, you called us Breedis, and we squawked, you screamed, "Oppressor!" Why, if memory serves, 'twas the same bird now playing strange confessor. The jay turned pale as the day grew long, and there came from distant sitter screeching Venezuelan song. And the Venezuelan birds twittered on the sitter and sat there with their chat, destroying little bits of this and lots of bits of that. Yes, they twittered on the sitter. They twittered on the sitter until the sitter tore, lay in threads, and was no more. The lead bald smiled. Time for y'all to go. The jays and others gulped. We can't stay with you. The lead bald said no. And the blue jays with their ilk now had nowhere else to go. Well, with one exception, made for wise old Crow. And that concludes the sitter. I hope you enjoyed it. You're cutting out, sweetie. Can't hear you. Desi. I lost Desi. And I can't hear her. I hope she comes back.
All right. Am I back?
You're back and I can hear you.
Okay,
Thank you, sweetie.
perfect. I always enjoy that poem, and that's why when we were talking and I was saying like it's the sitter on the Twitter, and because it's that hook line that you have in there that is always like playing in my head. It really is. So I was saying the first time that I heard it, I'll give the audience a little moment to answer what they think it is about, what your poem is about. And then I'll ask you a question, and I would like to know how it was transitioning from um, from doing the global war on terror to coming into uh, writing books, being an author, finally picking that passion up and utilizing it towards educating people through literature.
Yeah, so really long journey there, because I actually deployed in 2003, and then I was married to a soldier, um, and so I did my own experience, and then I got to support him through his experience. And what I saw over there did not match what I'd been taught about Islam and about some other things. And so I decided to do my own research, and I started, number one, researching Islam. And then that kind of led me into other areas of history that aren't really well known, that were not really taught in school. And then it just from there kind of snowballed into this passion for knowledge. Um, and I just kind of started devouring books. As far as the writing thing goes, how I got into being a writer, I've just always been able to do it. It's just a weird thing that I was born with, but I didn't really utilize it except to get me through college. Um, and I just kind of put it on the back burner while I was taking care of my family and doing other things. And then, like I said, COVID hit, and then all my experiences, with my research hit. And I said, I feel like just spitting facts out doesn't really help people. I feel like it needs to be put in stories. So that's why I started writing the little stories about the critters. And, the sitter is just kind of an example of what I do. My first book, Tales of American Idiocy, I have 5 animal stories in there. They're all allegories. They're all very much like Animal Farm. And they do deal with some issues that are kind of difficult, hopefully in a way that's a little bit kinder and gentler than just, spitting facts out. So
Thank
that's kind
you.
of me, and that's how I got into it.
Thank you so much. Latanya says she loves the poem. She said she thinks it's about finding ourselves, which is so amazing, and not losing ourselves to others. I like that.
Yeah,
I will tell
yeah,
you,
I like that too.
I will
I
say
like that
that
too.
when I first heard your poem, I took it in a very similar manner because of the way that it's described. I guess a lot of us have a challenge that we face with where people try to make us believe that we have to be something else to fit in, to to be a part of something, to be valued, So I think for a lot of us, it'll be more personal, but I will allow you to tell us what it is about. And I'm excited for you to tell us because a lot of your writings are about this.
Yeah. So Latanya, thank you so much for your response. You're not wrong. Like I said, literature is very subjective. So if you got that out of it, hey, take it and run with it and hold it close to your heart. Because it's not entirely wrong. And Desi said something very similar. I think you said something like, don't let people take advantage of you. Is that what you
Yeah.
had said? Or you can't let
Mhm.
people walk all over you? Yeah.
Yeah, something of that nature.
Yeah. It was something of that nature when you first heard it. So
Yeah.
that, I mean, you're not wrong. So what I will tell you that I was thinking when I wrote it is that, the media is very, these days, it's not very positive. It's very negative and it's very divisive. And it tries to divide people, rich versus poor, by different races, all these sorts of things. And at the heart of a lot of it is communism. Okay. Um, Thank you, sweetie. Thank you so much. But I just want you guys to know that at the heart of a lot of this division is communism. Um, in traditional communism, the kind that took over Russia, they focused on more of the rich versus poor sort of thing. Okay. But that didn't work out here. They tried it here in the 50s, but there was too much upward mobility. So, you go to school, you you could make more money, that sort of thing. You could get your way out of poverty here. So that wasn't working. So what they decided to do was stoke racial flames, okay? And there's a wonderful book out there called The Devil and Karl Marx. And, if you're interested, it's a great read on communism. So that's what I was thinking about, is that the Jays kind of represent the communists. Now, and then of course the birds are all the different races, right? And Wise Old Crow, he is like the black elder male archetype in the I'm sure that we're familiar with. The Venezuelan birds, the reason I picked Venezuelan is not to pick on Venezuelan people or immigrants. It's because recently we've had a lot of the Venezuelan gangs come over and cause trouble for the people here. And the interesting thing about communists is they think that they control everybody. Okay. They think that they can just tell everyone what to do and everyone what to believe, and that everyone's going to fall in line. And of course, it's not clear in my poem if they invite them in, but what is clear in my poem is that they demand that the Eagles leave the borders open for everyone, and it's just unrestricted, like immigration. They're not watching anybody, and the wire gets really full, and the Eagles are stressed out because, they're trying to take care of everything, but it becomes too hard. And so the Venezuelans come in and they make trouble, and the communists can't control them. Okay. Whereas they think that they can. So that's just kind of something to keep in the back of your mind when you hear some of these messages from what I like to call the glowing boxes. And I'll read a piece that deals with the glowing boxes here in a minute. But just understand that there's a negative message behind it, and you don't have to listen to it. You can just kind of remember my little poem and be like, maybe I ought to think twice about what that person, on the media is saying.
I think you said something very important when you came in, and after I had introduced you, you were talking about how you like to do research. And I am a firm believer that research is the best way for you to form your own opinion, to gain truth, to gain a truth that is unbiased. So don't be afraid to do the work. Don't be afraid to delve in deep and to look into get the facts behind the facts. Like
Yes,
we
ma'am.
understand
Yes,
that
ma'am. Absolutely.
even with, especially with the English language, you have one word that can mean 12 different things, and it'll be spelled the same way, or it'll have different variations of spelling. You have to understand what it is that you're ingesting into your life, and that is why research is important. We think that it's just we fear learning the wrong thing, but if you pick up a tool and you use it the right way, you'll never learn the wrong thing. It's all about how you
Yeah.
utilize it. Even a hammer can be used for destruction. So I I did want to say thank you for that, because research is very important in anything that you do, in any knowledge that you're gaining, and anything that the media is telling you. It's important for you to then check in with yourself, and if yourself doesn't know, you have to research it. Or
Find
and
someone
if
who
and
does.
Yes. So, or even
Yeah.
even what your faith is, even if it's prayer, even if it's whatever it is that helps you get to the next step, check in with that source, and then proceed. Don't just take things at face value, because people will lie to you, they will manipulate you, they will give you false truths because they want your money, they want you to follow them, and those are things that we have to be aware of in this day and age.
Yeah,
All
and
right, let's
I just love what you said. Can I just read one line from the sitter again? Just a
absolutely.
lot that drives home what you said, because you are so spot on. So I don't know if you remember, the lead J sneered, "Shut it, old timer. What is it you know? Look in the mirror, why you're just a crow. And crows have only one purpose these days, to echo our echoes and say what we say." So see, that's was me trying to communicate how communists, they want to manipulate people. Um, and for them, you need to understand that the end always justifies the means. I mean, they'll do anything to build their utopia. That's been shown over and over again through history. Um, so, and that includes manipulating people, that includes hurting people, and it just the possibilities are endless with them. So just keep that in mind.
Absolutely. I
Yes.
agree with that. Now, Miss Patricia, before I let you read your other piece, I want to ask you, what is it that you bring to the literary community that is not currently there?
Well, I think there hasn't been a lot of people doing Orwellian pieces using animals these days. I mean, we have animal stories, we have children's books, we have that kind of genre, but things like Animal Farm, you don't see a lot of. So I think that I do a pretty good job at it. At least I've been told I do. And I do tackle difficult subjects, and a lot of subjects that people are kind of scared to tackle. Uh, and I hope that, I mean, I hope people understand that I do it, out of love and kindness. I'm not trying to trigger people unnecessarily. I'm trying to trigger people to get them to think, and to really have them step back and be like, hey, wait a second, where is this really coming from? Is this person really my enemy, or is there some kind of manipulation being done that maybe I should be aware of? So who's the real enemy? I want people to think about that.
So you're bringing in awareness, and I think a lot of people, what we are used to now is just consuming content. It doesn't make us aware. If you're writing books that challenge beliefs, then are we cognizant of the things that we of our beliefs, the beliefs that we deem that are, oh, is that me? Oh, is that something I really need to change? And that is what I call food for the soul. So because it has the ability to transform, because you make
Yeah.
them think outside the box, and so that is always good, and I believe that is what you bring to the industry: the ability to transform, the ability to wake people up, to bring an awareness to people that they are not, that we don't normally think on. Even when you're with your poem The Sitter, I would have never thought of identity politics. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so
Right,
to
right.
make me aware of that, and to even to drive home the point that we were just talking about during your research, understanding what identity politics is, understanding how it affects you. And so all of the things that you do talk about, even with a Chester, the cat, and all of the things that he gets into, and how him and his animal friends, how they have this, and oh my God, oh my goodness, your character development. So I don't know if that is, and I definitely want to delve into that, but I am going to let you read your next piece. We will get there. So I am going to leave, and I will give you the stage.
All right, give me 1 second here to find Chester, because I think you guys are really going to love him. Most people do. Um, so let me grab Chester here really quick. Okay, so this is from Tales of American Idiocy. It's my first book, okay? And it's called Conspiracy Cat, all right? And it deals with the COVID era. Okay, here we are. Soon the humans will all wear muzzles and be chained to their homes by their great glowing boxes. This announcement by Chester the cat stopped the weekly meeting of the pets of Sunnyside Street cold, not because they were surprised by Chester. He was, after all, the neighborhood conspiracy cat, known for making odd announcements about aliens, lizard people, and government plots for totalitarian control. Chester was in a well of odd machinations, most of which he shared at inopportune moments. He even wore a tinfoil hat that each week boasted another layer of the shiny kitchen essential. It rose then above his awkward eyes, awkward because his right eye was twice as large as his left and constantly watering. Also, his nose continuously twitched. Indeed, all of Chester seemed to shudder. An endless nervous tic that Chester insisted was the result of aliens shooting electrical energy into his body. Chester, said Tommy the tortoise. That's weird, even for you. Weird doesn't begin to describe it, Chester said, his tremor intensifying. When the humans don their muzzles, they will isolate themselves. Then You will see them change. But why would the humans wear muzzles? Laughed Bonnie the collie. Muzzles will restrict their oxygen. All organs, especially the brain, rely on oxygen. Oxygen restriction will limit the human's ability to think critically and question the obscene. Also, forcing the humans into social isolation will alter their brain waves, Chester continued. Oxygen deprivation coupled with social isolation will launch them into a state of psychosis, making them vulnerable to suggestion. Then and only then will they be willing to surrender their civil liberties to the government and undergo mass pharmaceutical experimentation. This was said with great emphasis, and Chester stood on his hind legs, his front paws in the air, his tinfoil hat slipping over his head. Tommy the tortoise, Rocky the Labrador, and Bonnie the collie all looked at him, aghast. A Siamese kitten named Misty said, "You're crazy." Chester looked at her with his large, watering eye. "Don't worry about my mental health, little one. Worry about your humans." And with that, Chester launched himself dramatically over the back of the fence, leaving the other animals of Sunnyside Street speechless. The next morning, Tommy the tortoise walked in the kitchen. His human, a middle-aged, portly gentleman, was looking at his laptop, but in a strange sort of way. The screen was positioned so that all Tommy could see were his human's eyes. They were unusually large, liquid, and fearful. His human almost didn't look like himself. The tortoise shook his head. He must have misinterpreted his human on account of hunger. Yes, that was it, he thought. So Tommy sauntered over the bowl, expecting to see the usual offering of carrots and baby spring greens. Instead, it lay empty. Another unusual finding, and one that simply wouldn't do. After all, Tommy was hungry. He smacked the bowl with his foot, clearing a metallic ring, then looked at his human, who was still staring at his computer screen. The tortoise sighed, then smacked the bowl again, but more forcefully. This time, his human looked up, and Tommy caught his breath. Covering his human's mouth and nose was a large, unsightly strip of cloth. A muzzle! Across the street, Misty was having a similar experience. Her human, a 20-something female yoga instructor, was sobbing herself senseless on her futon. She started off by soaking her pillow. Then she grabbed Misty, drenching her fur and holding her with a grip that almost sent the cat running behind the washing machine. Almost. Misty resisted the urge for two reasons. One, her human needed her, really needed her. And two, Misty was curious. Not unusual for a cat. There was something very odd going on here. Her human was talking about never being able to see her boyfriend again or work as a yoga instructor again, and how something was going to kill her. But Misty didn't quite hear what that something was because her human's words were slurred by tears. No more parties ever again, Misty. No more fun. I want to die. Wait a second, Misty thought when her human said that. All of these things had one thing in common: social isolation. Her human was afraid of social isolation, just like Chester had foretold. 2 doors down, Rocky the Labrador and Bonnie the Collie were sitting and watching a great glowing box. Their humans, a married couple, were seated on the couch behind them, letting out the occasional sigh or gasp of terror. Have you ever heard such a load of crap in your life? Rocky asked Bonnie when they were halfway through the broadcast. Well, it's CNN, so they're trying to scare the humans to death, Rocky continued. Over a virus with a 99% survival rate. And just look at our humans, wearing muzzles. Don't they know viruses float right through those things? It's like using a chain link fence to stop a mosquito. Yeah, muzzles don't do anything, just like the animal version. Rocky cocked his head at the glowing box. I don't know about that, Bonnie, he disagreed. How so? Muzzles do something. When I wear one, I can't bark or whine very well. I also feel submissive and easier to control. Wait a second. The dogs looked at each other. You don't think, Bonnie said. What, that Chester was right? Bonnie didn't answer. She looked back at the glowing box and Rocky followed suit. They watched the newsman drone away about a vaccine the humans were rushing through for the better part of 5 minutes before Rocky said, I think we need to have a special meeting. We can't let this go a week. I need to know what else Chester knows. When Chester appeared before the animals at the special meeting the next day, his reception was much different. At his arrival, the gathered pets quieted immediately and parted with a bow as a crowd before a president or dignitary. All eyes were on him, transfixed and curious. The cat noticed their behavior but didn't alter his. He merely sidled up to his normal place atop the fence post and adjusted his tinfoil hat, waiting for Bonnie or Rocky to call the meeting to order. But this time, no one called the meeting to order. No one began speaking, and all eyes remained on Chester. What? He belted at last. He wasn't used to quiet. He was used to sneaking his theories in between everyone else's statements. Well, Rocky began awkwardly, we were wondering what your next prediction is. Yeah, like which stocks will go up, Tommy was joking, mostly to cover his distress. His human had been very devout about muzzle wearing over the last 2 days, and it disturbed Tommy greatly. He missed his human's smile. Misty, who had called Chester crazy at the last visit, was much humbler this time. We want to know what's going to happen to the humans, Chester. Mine has been crying for 2 days straight. Mine won't stop watching their glowing box, Tommy exclaimed. Mine either. How do we stop this, Chester? Bonnie asked. Yeah, what's the lizard people's end game? All right, everyone, quiet down, Rocky interjected. Let Chester answer. The Labrador nodded up at the conspiracy cat. Go ahead, Chester. Chester looked at the troubled animals. He felt bad for what he was about to say next, but it had to be said. For all his faults, lying wasn't one of them. The end game of this unethical social experiment was not devised by the lizard people, although they are involved. No, Big Pharma and the US government are the main players. They want to create a more obedient human being. But why? Misty squeaked. Most of human energy is spent trying to control other human beings. It has been this way since the dawn of time. Some humans are as addicted to power as they are to caffeine. Right now, humans with this addiction control the seat of power in the US and the world. As for the how, Chester continued, the humans will further descend into madness. You will see them don 2 muzzles and cover their eyes with plastic. Then they will begin speaking to their glowing boxes. Watch for it. When it happens, you know they are 1 step closer to agreeing to the experiment. And Chester exited as dramatically as before, falling backward onto the ground behind the fence, his tinfoil hat tumbling after him. Just as Chester predicted, the humans began to wear 2 masks, then cover their eyes with clear plastic. Tommy's dad put a hood over his eyes until he looked like a welder. Now, not only did Tommy miss his human smile, but the love from his human's eyes as well. Bonnie and Rocky's humans had thick pairs of plastic glasses that fit over their regular eyeglasses. They wore these most of the time, except when they took them off to talk to their glowing boxes. Misty's human stuck with 1 mask, but she was an emotional wreck. She talked to her glowing box, or rather, cried to it. She spoke of things that would make a psychiatrist cringe, let alone a kitty like Misty. It was so bad that Misty took to hiding the sharp objects. By the end of the week, there was a large collection of knives stashed under her bed. By the next meeting, the animals were on pins and needles to hear what Chester had to say next. But to their surprise, Chester didn't speak, except to introduce a small white rat he had brought with him. Hello, my name's Hal, said the rat. I'm a former lab rat, and I'm here today because the humans took my job. He laughed at his little joke. He likes puns, Chester exclaimed. Hello, Hal, said the other animals. It's great to be here, said Hal. I'd like to share with you what I learned while working for Big Pharma. On average, it takes $1 billion and 8 years of rat, then monkey, then human research to bring a drug to market. I should know I've seen a lot of drugs, taken a lot of them too. So if I forget what I'm talking about mid-sentence, you'll forgive me. As if on cue, the rat stopped, blinked, then smiled at the crowd. Hello, my name's Hal. You were just talking about bringing a drug to market, Chester redirected Hal. Whoops, that happens from time to time, folks. My apologies, I'm taking a lot of experimental drugs. Yeah. Yes, you said that too, Rocky said. Anyway, this new vaccine coming down the pipeline didn't get that same testing. They're pushing it through breakneck speed. How breakneck are we talking? 8 months. Shocked silence followed Hal's admission, the type of silence in which one could hear a pin drop. The animals looked at each other. So what you're saying is that humans will be doing the testing instead of the rats, Misty said. Yep, the humans took my jab, Hal laughed. The little kitten blinked, then reached behind her fluffy body and put a pink tinfoil hat on her head. She made it just in case she heard further confirmation of the lunacy the world was descending into. Hal's admission was just such a confirmation. Hal, any idea what this vaccine will do to the humans? Several companies tried for years to push the mRNA vaccines through and failed. There were safety concerns. Like what? Oh, not much, Hal said. Just autoimmune disease, organ failure, prion disease, infertility, myocarditis, endocarditis, miscarriage, dysmenorrhea, blood clots, nervous disorders, and Hal tapped his chin along with his memory. Oh yeah, sudden death. What in the actual hell? Tommy yelled. And the humans are going to line up for that? I refuse to believe it. That's where you're wrong, Chester said. His right eye was watering and his body trembling again, his tinfoil hat rocking gently against the orange tufts of fur on his head. The glowing boxes will dump fear on the humans, driving them more insane by the day until they are willing to do anything to end it. This includes shoving unproven chemicals into their bodies. Okay, that's it, Bonnie yelled. We've got to save these idiotic humans from themselves. I know it's a tall order, but we got to try. Chester, she yelled at the cat, can't the aliens help us? The aliens that send all those radio waves into your body? Don't they have anything to say? Chester looked at her, startled. Then a wide smile spread across his face. That's it, he exclaimed. The glowing boxes are giving the humans directions, like the aliens wire mine through my hat into my body. The glowing boxes will tell them how to participate in the pharmaceutical experiment. So we have to burn the glowing boxes. The animals were nodding enthusiastically at each other. Then Rocky spoke. Okay, Chester, we're with you. The next night, the animals stole matches from the kitchens, shredded cardboard, and lit a large bonfire in the center of the cul-de-sac at the end of Sunnyside Road. Then they chucked TVs, computers, tablets, and all other manner of glowing boxes into the leaping flames. With each piece of mind control that entered the bonfire, it grew higher until it attracted the attention of Missy's human, who woke at 2 a.m. and called the fire department. Tommy's human ran out to look at the scene and started talking to Missy's human as the fire trucks arrived. It turns out that Tommy's human was looking to lose weight and always wanted to try yoga, but was too embarrassed to join a group on account of his weight. Misty's human agreed to give him private lessons. Bonnie and Rocky's humans were the last to realize that their glowing boxes were missing, but weren't distressed by it. I have a feeling they were lying to us anyway, the husband said to the wife, who agreed. Then they spread out lawn chairs to watch the firemen do their work, the first bit of propaganda-free entertainment they'd enjoyed in a while. Chester's human was an elderly lady who didn't have a glowing box, only a small cell phone. She waved hello to her neighbors as she rounded the electronic fire with Chester on her heels. She wasn't wearing a muzzle, and when the other humans saw her without one, they removed theirs too. The animals saw Chester's lady enter the bushes at the end of the cul-de-sac, Chester trailing behind her. Misty, Rocky, Tommy, and Bonnie looked at each other. Isn't Chester's human elderly and nearsighted? Tommy pointed out. Yeah, Misty said, and she's going into the forest. We should follow her, Rocky said. So they did, down a sloping ravine until they came to a clearing in which an odd-looking humanoid figure with large black eyes and gray skin was standing before Chester's human. The animals gasped in unison. An alien. Well done, the alien said. But you know you can't save them all. Chester's old lady removed her glasses and straightened up. When she let her hair down, she looked 20 years younger. She had been wearing a disguise. That's not my goal, Lord's Lord. Chester and I only need to save a few for the dominoes to fall against the globalists and their new world order. Let's hope you're right. We'll be in contact. And the humanoid figure turned toward a large, glowing disc-like object that suddenly appeared behind him. He entered the craft. Seconds later, it zoomed in the sky and disappeared. The animals turned to one another, silent and shocked. Misty smoothed the tinfoil hat on her head. Chester saw his friends and patted over, smirking gently. What do you say, guys? My human and I can't do this alone. And after all, today's conspiracy theorist is tomorrow's prophet. As Chester was speaking, his human approached and knelt before them. The animals could see clearly that she was middle-aged with auburn hair and had been wearing a disguise. She offered an outstretched hand to the animals. In her palm was a stack of tiny, pet-sized tinfoil hats. And that's the end of Conspiracy Cat. It's one of the many stories in my first book, Tales of American Idiocy. So
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to let you know that listening to you read is very, very entertaining and captivating. First of all, I love the way that you change your voices, all of those things. Like, you know how you used to go to like the libraries and they would read you books in the libraries? You give me a
Yeah.
nostalgic feeling like that. That's so I
Thank
was over
you.
here listening. Yes, I was just listening to everything. And this is what I was talking about in your writing, the character development. So even from the animals taking care of their owners or even just recognizing patterns to even pulling in their owners, giving us bits and pieces of the owners and then dissecting each and every one of them for us. Can you tell us like what that mindset is? How is that? How does your character development process work for you?
So obviously the animals are the main focus, right? But the animals have to care about the humans in order to be motivated to do what they're going to do. And so I was like, all right, I want to give them all little personalities. You know, the turtle likes to invest in stocks and he cares about seeing his human. He wants to see his human smiling at him. He wants to see, um, his face and, interact with him in that way. And that, to me, that makes sense for a reptile because I actually have a tortoise at home. And they do show love, they do interact, but it's on a different level as like a dog or a cat would. They're not going to slobber all over you, but they do show love. And they, mine, he looks at me and I can see that he's taking me in. And when I give him his baths, he appreciates it. So I try to think of, realistically in a way how a tortoise would be and how a tortoise would react to seeing, you know his human completely change his behavior and then not be able to see his eyes anymore, not be able to see him smile anymore. um, so that was important for me. um, and then as far as Misty, the little kitten who has the yoga instructor for the owner, um, I was thinking, well, cats, they like to be cuddled, but it's on their terms. So let's see, how would a cat react to somebody kind of losing it over COVID? Because, a lot of people had a lot of difficulty during that time frame. Human beings are very social animals, right? So Misty's human was one of those that kind of lost it. She's a yoga instructor. She's used to being in front of people. She's used to interacting with people. And all of a sudden she can't. And so she's sobbing and she's losing it. And how's a cat that normally likes to be cuddled on their terms going to react? Well, she loves her human, so she's going to let herself be cuddled maybe a little more than she wants to be. Even though she wants to run behind the washing machine, she's not going to do it. And oh, by the way, she's hiding the knives, from the kitchen under her bed. um, and then, Rocky and Bonnie, their humans are a little bit more on the level. So it's almost kind of like they're trying to help everybody else. I mean, yes, they help their humans too by burning the glowing boxes, but they're more trying to figure out what's going on and trying to help everybody else. I'm trying to figure out, how did the local nut job get it so right? You know, because that's what Chester was. I mean, come on, let's face it. We've all got one in the neighborhood, or we've all got one in our family that talks about these things. Um, and they're just a little on the edge, or they're a little strange. And that's Chester. So they're more trying to interact with Chester and kind of figure out, okay, is this guy right? Is he wrong? Is he partially right, wrong? How do we do this? How do we react to everything going on around us? And then I had a lot of fun with Hal, the lab rat, because I really wanted to kind of communicate the fact that all the drugs and all the developments we have did come, unfortunately, at the expense of animals. And rat physiology, interestingly enough, is very similar to human physiology. So they do a lot of our pharmaceutical testing. And it's like Hal said, first they test on the rats, then they do monkeys, and then they do humans. And it's usually about an 8-year process. So I wanted to pull in a character like him who was also a little off, but who was actually very knowledgeable from having, worked for Big Pharma and been in this process. So they were just all fun characters, and I just really spent a lot of time kind of working with them, and then also wanting to give their humans a little bit of character too, because obviously the humans are the motivation for what they're going to do, and then what they're going to do in the next adventure, which you have right now. Conspiracy Crew: The End Is Meow, where they do even more in this fight against what I believe they're trying to establish with this whole thing, which is called the New World Order. So
Absolutely. Latanya said that was so true about us. What a great insight on how the government controls the world. The story was deep and very true, and she stated that it was well put. Um,
thank you.
so I would like to say that because I believe I think we touched on this earlier, how the media has a way of being biased, and it does have a way of swaying your opinions. So it is like we stated back. Let me bring it back full circle for you guys. Do your research. Uh, so
Yes,
to
yes.
and so even when you talk about the glowing boxes, I love the vernacular that you give the animals, because for us, even the mask or being muzzles, like all of those things, like I like viewing the way that they view our world. It's very realistic because they compare it to things that they already have, which is exactly what we as humans do. We compare it to things that we already have. You hear another word in French, you hear more, you already know that it's love in English. You hear it in Spanish, you know it's the same thing. So for animals to take that to take on that characteristic, and for you to convey it so so cohesively is an amazing thing as an artist. And I do think that takes a lot of work. I don't know if you pull from your personal experience as well. I do know you say you have a turtle, or you have a tortoise. Do you have a turtle or a tortoise?
I do. I have a tortoise
Like,
and a cat. I'm a big animal person. I like, if I
right.
knew a gator wouldn't bite me, I would hug and cuddle the crap out of the thing. I'm that kind of person. If I ever you ever hear of me dying on the Serengeti, just know it's because I tried to hug a lion. I mean, I'm that person. All right, I'm that weirdo.
I
So yeah,
understand
so I have two cats, I have a dog, I have a tortoise. I mean, I would have more. Probably will in the next few years. But yeah, I'm a big animal person, and I just love animals, and I think they're great storytelling vehicles. I just think they are. They're fun, and there's something pure about them too. You know,
that.
and I just feel like you can have a perspective with them that you just can't have with humans. Using human characters. So
Yeah. I agree with that. I like that you. I have a lizard. It's a bearded dragon. His name is Trigo. So I do understand the relationship with reptiles, because a lot of people always tell me like he don't have any personality. I'm like, you just don't know. His side eye is bombastic. Okay, let me tell you why. So but
you have
also
to send me
just
pictures. You have to
I
send me
most
pictures
certainly
of it.
will. I have him dressed up in
Absolutely.
everything. Halloween, he was a ringmaster. I got like, yes, that's my best friend. I love my lizard. But
That's too funny.
also, I wanted to ask you before everything is all said and done, what's next for you?
So I'm not 100% sure. I actually have like 3 books on my computer that probably need, some tweaking and things like that. And then I would like to continue Chester. He's been a big hit. I get all kinds of wonderful feedback on him. And at the end of Conspiracy Crew: The End Is Meow, there is a cliffhanger. Where Chester's Russian girlfriend comes in, and I don't want to ruin it for you, but yeah, so I don't think I want to leave my fans hanging for too long with that one. So I want to continue that. But yeah, and I really love spending time with other artists. So like you, and like on Dylan's show, that was a lot of fun. So um, yeah, just helping other artists any way I can, I think is great too. So wherever God leads me, I suppose.
Well, Miss Patricia, I want to say thank you so much for coming on today and making this show possible. And I want to let you guys know that if you're looking for her work, you can find it on Amazon as well. And Miss Patricia, I don't know if you were able to put your handles
I think
in
I did.
there, or if you have
I
a
think I
link
did in
where
the
they,
top.
or if you have a link where
Yeah,
they can purchase your book, I can post that as well for you as well too. So.
yeah, I'll get that for you just a second. But I did put my handles in the Facebook chat, so
In
you
the
should be able
Facebook.
to. Yeah, just in the face or in the messenger, the Facebook messenger.
Oh, in our messenger. Okay, give me one moment and let me grab those really quick because I want them to have those before we leave here. And then, Miss Patricia, I do know that you I would call your work satirical. That's what I would call it. I want to ask you because satirical work is one of my favorite genres. I will not lie to you. I like the a
Oh,
person.
really?
It really is because I love the ability a person has to make something that is very serious a little more digestible for people through laughter. And that is what you have captured so well in your books is the humor, but the seriousness, the heaviness of politics, the heaviness of being mandated into this conspiracy theory of all the crazy thoughts that we thought were just people talking, but things that are actually coming into flourishing. You have the amazing ability to capture it so well and to make it funny and digestible at the same time, and it makes sense. It's not like it's just, you know how you read books and it's just like a bunch of words and you're like, what the heck did I just read? But
Yeah, you kind of
yours is
forget
not
about it.
like that. Yes,
Oh, thank
yes,
you.
yours are not like that. So I would like to ask, like, how does that process work for you? How are you capable of doing that so fluently?
Uh, I would. That's not a question I can answer, even though I wish I could. I think the best person to ask is the man upstairs. Because
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, because I don't have an answer. I've thought about it, and I'm like, well, this just has to come from God, because I mean, I don't know where this is coming from, because the stuff I write it is wild. It's
Mhm.
wild, and some people think it's mean or whatever. But I honest to God, I'm not trying to be mean. I am just trying to make people realize, hey, they might try to be manipulating you, and maybe the person who is your enemy, or you thought who is your enemy, isn't actually your enemy. Maybe
Right.
it's somebody else. um,
Mhm.
or it could be your own mind, the way that you're looking at things. You could be your own worst enemy. That happens too. Um, so I put the link, it's kind of a long link, I apologize, to Conspiracy Crew, The End is Meow. And then let me get the one for Tales of American Idiocy for you too, so I can
Mhm.
grab it for you here really quick. But yeah, they're both on Amazon. And then I've seen them at Barnes and Noble
It's
too.
very long.
Yeah, I apologize, sweetie. Here,
No,
let
it's
me get you
okay.
the.
You guys can copy and paste it. It is in the comments on Facebook and it is also in the comments on YouTube as well. So you can definitely copy and paste that link. Although it is very long, it is all together on Facebook. They separated it on YouTube. So I do apologize about that, you guys.
I sent you a shorter one. Okay, there's a shorter one for Tales, and then I got it. I got you shorter for one for Conspiracy Crew. There we go. That's
Oh,
better. All right,
perfect.
cool.
Okay.
Well, I'm so
Yes.
glad you love satire. Not a lot of people. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that. I would say that like people have mixed opinions about it. So, um, and they say that you actually have to have very high intelligence to understand it too. So that means you're very, very smart. So,
Oh, yes. I grew up on comedians like Dave Chappelle.
I love Dave
Yes,
Chappelle. Oh my
yes,
God.
he is very
He's crazy and
satirical.
I love him.
Yes,
Yes, he is.
so
He's very, actually, yeah, he is satirical now that I think about it.
mhm.
The stuff that he's done. I mean, I kind of wonder if some of the stuff he's done, he would be allowed to do today. He had
Absolutely.
said something. Yeah, he had said something actually complaining about that, the environment, that it was so toxic for comedians. And
Mhm.
he's right, now that I think about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's crazy, and I love him, and I hope that things get better for him and other artists too, that they're able to express themselves. So
Well, I hope they bring it back. I think that's why a lot of people we don't they don't appreciate art, and they don't want you to appreciate art simply because it is that free will, it is that free thinking, it is that it's that this is my destiny, and if I want to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it. If you are
yeah,
like if this is my story and somebody tries to mute you, you understand, like if you have something to say and somebody mutes you, you understand how much can go wrong with you physically because you're holding on to that, or somebody won't let up off of you to say it. This is what oppression feels like. And a lot of people, and I
yes,
don't think we don't understand how often things are interconnected, how somebody can feel something and it affects us. There is a video of a man who is a lecturer, and he puts out a person in the classroom. He says, you just need to get out of my class. And he goes
mhm,
on to talk to the rest of the class, and he says, do you think that it was right that I put her out? And they all said no, but they were, and then he was like, but nobody stood up for her. You understand that if you didn't stand up for her because it wasn't happening to you. But let me tell you something,
yeah,
when it's happening to you, you're gonna wish somebody would stand up for you. But because it wasn't affecting you at that moment in time, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. So, Miss Patricia, I want to say thank you for doing what you're supposed to do, for making it digestible, for making it a satire, for putting real life events into books that are digestible through animals, and doing the work to characterize them in a way that is honest, that is a way that we can put it into perspective and say that could actually happen in real life. I could see my dog thinking that my lizard might
yeah.
actually do. So thank you so
So
much.
in the one you're reading now, it has a lizard in it. So just so you're aware, he's a
Yeah.
lizard person, but
Mhm.
he's an iguana basically.
Mhm.
So you should like that.
I am. I'm gonna love it, and I'm gonna tell you all about it when I am done reading it. It shouldn't take me too long. I'm a fairly quick reader, so and even
All
just
right.
listening to you read the other book, I was like, I definitely understand all of the things. Even like even which is like the glowing box. At first, I was like the glowing box, and then I was like, it makes sense. So but so yes, and then the muzzles, I was like, a muzzle? What were we wearing that would be like muzzles? And I was like, oh, mask. So like yes, even the hidden, I think symbolism is very important, and a lot of us we don't pay attention to symbolism. So I'm always
So,
thinking like, okay, if I was a dog, what would be a muzzle? What would be like a muzzle that a human would have to wear? And I'm like, what's that? What is that? So, and that is how you take people out of their element. That's how you make them think outside the box, and it's easier for us to open our perspective and be and suspend disbelief and be open to the ideals that you're giving us, that you're portraying to us. And so and you make it easier to see. So thank you so much for doing that. Did you have any last words, anything that you would like to tell any writers that are also watching?
um, don't be afraid to write something crazy, I guess, because you just never know who it's going to resonate with and who it's going to heal. Um, and my stuff is pretty wild, but I've gotten a lot of wonderful feedback on it, and Chester's healed a lot of hearts. So um, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to write something crazy. And just since we're on the subject of muzzles, that's why I wear this, because I want to commemorate the time where we were politically veiled. Um, Now, this is actually a harem maiden's veil, and it's the black veil of a slave. Harem maidens were slaves in the Ottoman Empire. Um, and, it was an unequal society because Sharia law is unequal. And so they would identify the women by their dress. And so you would be identified by the type of veil you wore. And so that's why I wear this, because this is how my government sees me. So I might as well be honest about it.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Patricia. Ladies and gentlemen, Unmasking the Infidel, a conversation with Miss Patricia Ray, also known as PR Infidel. Miss Latanya said, "Thank you so much. I have
Thank
enjoyed
you,
you
Latanya.
immensely. I have definitely
I've
enjoyed
enjoyed
you.
you too.
Thank you. You have such a great energy. It is just amazing. You guys can tune in next week here on Thursday. I'll be back. I wasn't here for like an entire week. I apologize. I'm back now. I'm back and I'm better. I was busy with performances and I'm going to get better at those too. So, but thank you all so much for tuning in with us. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your participation as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you next week on Thursday. Have a great one. And thank you so much, Miss Patricia. This one wouldn't have been
Thank you.
possible without you tonight.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too.